Hello friends, in this video we are going to see the very important data structure that is array as well as the dimension of array as well as the declaration and initialization of different types of dimensional array. Array. Array is one type of data structure is the collection of similar data types or the collection of similar entity stored in a contiguous memory location. Array of a character is called as a string. Each data item of an array is called as a element, and each element is unique and located in separate memory location. Each elements of an array share a variable, but each element having different index number, which is known as a subscript. So in this topic you should know two elements, that is what does element mean and what does subscript mean, which is very important. You should know what is array and what is element and what is subscript. Next, an array can be single dimensional or can be multidimensional. Number of subscripts, that is index number, determines its dimension, and number of subscript of any array is always start with 0, which is very important. Next, one dimensional array is also known as a vector, and two dimensional array are known as a matrix. Benefits or the advantages of arrays are: first advantage is array variable can store more than one value at a time, whereas other variable can store one value at a time. For example, int array in the bracket 100, int mark 100. Now the declaration of an array. The syntax for the array is data type of array, array name, and the size in the square bracket. So for example, data type is int, array name is ARR, and in the square bracket we are saying the size of an array is 100. Size of array, that doesn't mean the elements of array will be 100, right? Size means array can occupy 100 element space, but that doesn't mean that elements which are present in array are 100. Next, int mark as 100. Int a5 is equal to, in the curly bracket, 10, 20, 30, 100, 5. So we are, as well as at the time of declaration, we can also give the initialization of an array with the help of curly brackets. The declaration of an array tells the compiler that the data type, the name of the array, and the size of the array. And for each element, it occupies memory space. Like for int data type, it occupies 2 bytes for each element, and for float, it occupies 4 bytes for each element. The size of the array operates the number of elements that can be stored in an array, and it may be a integer constant or any expression. We can represent individual array as int ar5 with the element of each and every 5. How we can access it? Whenever I say int ar5, that means in the ar total 5 memory locations are there. So if you want to represent that memory location, how you can represent? So for that, ar0, ar1, 2, 3 and 4. Total 5 elements, but the index will be, or the subscript will be 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. Symbolic constant can also be used to specify the size of the array, like hash define the size and the 10. So we can say a constant value we have defined as a size, which is 10. So whenever you want to specify the size of array as a 10, you can use that size as a variable name, which is predefined. Next, initialization of an array. After declaration, element of a local array has a garbage value. But if it is a global or a static array, then it will be automatically initialized with a 0. And explicitly, it can be initialized that data type, array name, size of array equal to, in the double quotes, value 1, comma value 2, comma value 3, comma etc. after closing the curly brackets. For example, int ar5 equal to, in the curly bracket, 20, 60, 90, 100, 120 bracket complete. So with the help of that, we can say in the memory location, the one of the space will be occupied for the 5 elements, and in that 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4, and the name of that location is array, and 20 will be stored in 0, 60 will be stored with 1, 90 will get stored at 2, 100 will get stored at 3 and 120 will get stored at 4. As we have already studied, array subscript always start from 0, so which is known as a lower bound, and upper value is known as a upper bound, and the last subscript value is always 1 less than the size of array. The subscript can be an expression, that is integer value, right? Next, it can be any integer, integer constant, integer variable, integer expression or any return value from a function call that yield the integer value. So if I and j are not a variable, then the valid subscript are ar I into 7, ar I into ar I plus plus and ar 3. The array elements are standing in a contiguous memory location, and the amount of storage required for holding the elements depend on its size and type, right? So by default we can consider, if consider the size of any integer array is consider 5, right? And if I'm saying as 10, 20, 30, 40 and 50, right? That means this amount of space right, has to be provided to the array. And you know, for the integer, we need 2 bytes of data. So for 5 elements, he will provide 2 bytes of data, right? So we can say 5 into 2 bytes of memory location he has to provide for the array A. Clear? Next. Total size in byte for the one-dimensional array is total bytes equal to the size of data type into the size of array, which I've already explained. Example, if an array declares int 20 and total byte is equal to 2 into 20, right? The size is 20, right? And a 2 bytes. So I can say 40 byte of data will be stored for the integer A. Then accessing of array element. So we can go through the program, write a program to input a values into an array and display them. Hash include stdio.h. So in this code, what we are doing, we have created one variable array with a 5 size and one more variable as a I. Then using for loop, I is equal to 0, I is less than 5 and I plus plus, we are accepting the value of array, printf and scanf. After done with that, we are just displaying the array. Like printf, the array elements are for I is equal to 0, I is less than 5, I plus plus. Printf %d, comma, array I. So with the help of this statements, right, we are taking the input of array, right? We are taking input of array, right? And with the help of this statement, we are displaying the array, right? So the output will be enter a value for A0 is 12. Then once again it will ask for the each and every element. So for till the 4 it asks for the elements, and the elements are 12, 45, 59, 90, and 21. Fine. Next. For example, from the above example, values stored in an array are and occupying its memory address is 2000, 2, 4, 6 and 8 respectively. Now how you get to know that it is 2000 and 2002? Because you should know that it is a 2 bytes of data it required, because it is an integer type of data, right? So first 2 bytes it accepted for the 12, then next for the 45, next for the 56 and etc. Okay, these all are the random values, we cannot specify the values right now, right? So array 0 will be 12, 1 is 45, 2 is 39, 3 is 98 and 4 is 21. So with the help of this, you will get a whole idea. Array of 0 will be 12, array of 1 will be 45, 2 will be 59, 3 will be 98 and 4 will be 21. And these are the memory addresses. So 2000, 2002, 4, 5, 6 and 8. Fine. Next. Next example. Write a program to add 10 array elements. Now you have to accept also, then you have to perform the addition also, and you have to display the value also, right? So in the last code we have already gone through that how we can accept the input array, right? But Now we have to perform addition also. Now we'll see, go through one by one. See what we are doing here. We have accepted one value as a int I, then one variable array as arr10. Then as we are writing for the normal sum of any element as a int sum is equal to 0. Then for I is equal to 0, I is less than equal to 9, I plus plus, enter the %d element in I plus 1. Scanf %d array of I. So these block of code will use for input element, right? Then for I is equal to 0, I is less than equal to 9, I plus plus. With the help of this for loop, we are performing the addition of each and every element, that is 10 elements present in the array. So we are performing the addition of 0 plus 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 10 subscript element. So with the help of this, we are performing the sum of elements. Next, printf the sum of 10 array elements is sum, because we get a one value, right? So with the help of that one value, we can directly write printf sum. So the output value will be enter a value of array 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? So till 9 it will accept all the values, and by default he will give you the sum, that is 275. Clear with this code? Next, while initializing a single dimensional array, it is optional to specify the size of array. It is not compulsory that you have to specify the size of array. If the size is omitted during the initialization, then the compiler assumes the size of array is equal to the number of initializer. Means, consider you are written like this, int array, and you will say like 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So by default, compiler will consider that it required 5 amount of space. For example, int marks, and this is 6 elements. So compiler will understand for the marks array, it required 6 elements. If during the initialization of a number, the initializer is less than the size of array, then all the remaining elements of the array are assigned value 0. That means agar like if we try to give here value as a 3, fine, so the size is 3 but elements are 5. So what he'll do, he'll accept first, second and third. After that, whatever value will be, that will be gone off, right? Next, for example, int marks 5 is equal to 19 and 78, right? Next, here the size of the array is 5 but the initializer value is only 2. So after the initialization, whatever the rest of elements will remain, that will be by default 0. Such as 0 is 99, first is 78, second is 0, third is 0, fourth is 0. So once again when we initialize the array, like int array 100 is equal to 0, then the elements of the array will be initialized to 0. If the number of initializer is more than the size given in the brackets, then compiler will show you the error that array index out of bound. The error is array index out of bound, right? Next is For example, int AR5 and we are given the value as the 8. So that time you will get error as array index out of bound. So we cannot copy all the elements of an array to the another array by simply assigning it to the other arrays, like by initializing or declaring as int A5 1 2 3 4 5, int B5 equal to B equal to A. So this is also not a valid. Next, single dimensional array and the functions which you can use to perform single dimensional array. A program to pass array elements to a function. So see, in this code what we are doing, we are created one array with a size of 10 and one variable as a I. Then printf enter the array elements. Then for I is equal to 0, I is less than 10, I plus plus. Then scanf %d ampersand of array of I. And now we are calling one method, that is check for array of ith element. That means for each and every element of array, the check method will get called. Fine. Now what is this function? We'll see what is this function is. This function is just checking the number which is entered from the user is even or odd using the condition num modulus of 2 is equal to 0. Fine. So if we consider that we have entered a number 4, right, or the array the element first value is 4, so he will give you the answer as the even number. Then for the second element it will give you the array as odd number, etc. Next, two-dimensional array is known as a matrix. The array declaration in both the array, that is in single dimensional array, a single subscript is used, and in two-dimensional array, two subscript is used. How? The syntax is data type, array name, row and column. Or we can say two-dimensional array is a collection of one-dimensional array placed one below the other, right? Total number of elements in two-dimensional array is calculated as rows into column. For example, int a 2 and 3. So 2 rows, 3 columns, right? So total number of elements will be 6. It means the matrix consists of 2 rows and 3 columns. For example, 22 7, that is the first row, and 8 3 15. So we can say we having one type of matrix, right, with subscript as 0 1 and 0 1 2, right? So if you want to access, consider if you want to access this value, so what you'll do, you will say a, the row index is 1 and column index is 1, right? Next, position of a two-dimensional array elements in an array are as below: 0 0, right? If you want, like we have discussed, if you want to access this element, you will write 0 0, 0 1 0 2 1 0 1 1 1 2. So for that array, the 20th element index is 0 0. The second index is 0 0. The 7 is, so if we say 20 2 7 8 3 15, right? So we can say for the 20, the value is 0 0, right? For 2 it is value is 0 1. Then for 7 the value is 0 2. Then for 8 is value is 1 0. And for 3 the value is 1 1. Similarly, for 15 the value is 1 2. Fine. Next, for reading the value. So if you want to read the two-dimensional array, how we can do that? And for displaying the value, how we can do that? So for reading any array, two-dimensional array, the loop is for I is equal to 0, I is less than 4, I plus plus, and so this is 3 by 4 matrix, and this is also 3 by 4 matrix. Okay, so now for j is equal to 0, j is less than 5, j plus plus. So the first for loop is for the row and the second for loop is for the columns. So we can say the I is a row and j is a column. Fine. Similarly, for the display purpose, the same thing they are performing. The rows are 3 and the columns are 4. Just over here we are writing scanf, over here we are writing printf. That's it. Next, initialization of a two-dimensional array. Two-dimensional array can be initialized in a way similar to the one-dimensional array. For example, int mat 4 by 3. So all the values will be like this only, one-dimensional array. But how that value will get stored, that is very important. These values are assigned to the elements row-wise. So the values of elements after this initialization are mat 0 0 will be 11, mat 1 0 will be 14, mat 2 0 will be 17, and mat 3 0 will be 20. As well as mat 0 1 will be 12, mat 1 1 will be 15, 2 1 will be 18, 3 1 will be 21. Similarly, it will goes on. While initializing, we can group the elements row-wise using inner braces. For example, int mat 4 by 3, first bracket is for the first row, second bracket is for the second row, third is for third row, and fourth is for fourth row. And while initializing, it is necessary to mention the two-dimensional where first dimension is optional. Int mat 3. So rows is optional, but column you have to specify. Int mat 2 by 3. But you cannot specify both the block as a blank, as well as you cannot make second block as a blank. That is invalid. Next, if we initialize an array as int mat 4 by 3, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 and 17, then the compiler will assume that its all the rest values are 0, which are not defined. So it will be 11, 12, 14, 17 and others will be 0, 0. Fine. Next, in memory map, whether it is a one-dimensional or two-dimensional, the elements will get stored in a contiguous manner. So we can also give the size of two-dimensional array by using the symbolic constant such as hash defined row is 2 and hash defined column is 3. So int mat row and column. Now accessing two-dimensional array or processing two-dimensional array. For processing two-dimensional array, we use two nested for loop. The outer for loop is correspond to the rows and the inner for loop is for the columns. For example, int a 4 by 5. So as we have seen, hash define row by 2 and hash define column by 3. So int mat row and column, right? So through that you can define your rows and columns. So in this video we have gone from what is array, the advantages of array, the types of dimensions of array, how we can initialize the one dimensional array, how we can declare the one dimensional array, as well as how we can declare two dimensional array and how we can initialize two dimensional array, plus how we can access it or how we can print the data using different for loop. Thank you.